Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody, or should I say good evening, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, Season 9, Episode 2, overall 442 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles. A great selection of all-electric vehicles, and they're the number one all-electric vehicle seller in Ontario for GM. And you can also check out their Cadillac products as well. And you can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you. Or you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, the home of Southern Talk in sports, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. I want to wish everybody here in Canada today a happy Thanksgiving Day. For my American audience and people overseas, our Thanksgiving in Canada is about a month earlier than the United States. So I just want to wish everyone here a happy Thanksgiving. Thankfully, it only comes once a year. I had my Thanksgiving dinner yesterday with my family and cousins in London, and I am stuffed, so I don't need to eat for the next week as well. I am hoping everyone's doing well on this Monday, October 14th, 2024. Thanksgiving is gone, and now the next holiday here is going to be Christmas, and they're already playing Christmas music on some radio stations. So, but anyways, I'm looking forward to our guest tonight. This is going to be her first appearance, and maybe more in the future. Her name is my tonight's guest. She is from Brooklyn, New York. She's a Brooklyn, New York native. Her name is Chica Loca. She is a fun-sized teacher that's turned into a comedian, and I'm excited to have her on tonight. And since she's from Brooklyn, New York, I've got to ask her, Mets or Yankees, if she's a baseball fan. So we're going to bring on Chica Loca, and we're going to talk some comedy with her and how she came about her new career from being a teacher. Good evening, Chica. How are you?
Happy Thanksgiving, Chris.
Well, thank you so much. Ours is just a little bit sooner than yours, but thank you very much. And like I was saying, I'm glad it only comes once a year.
Lots of food?
Too much. So it's like, yeah, so I'm going to have to walk it off tonight. But how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you on too on my 442nd show tonight as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, awesome. That's a lot of shows. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on your 4th year as a stand-up comedian.
Thank you. It's been an awesome 4 years, let me tell you.
Hey, before we get to some questions, I got to ask you this. Since you're from Brooklyn, New York, are you a Yankees fan or a New York Mets fan?
Well, Yankees fan per se, but I gotta be honest, I couldn't tell you one person that's on the team right now. But if I was going to pick to go to a game, it would be Yankees because my family's Yankees fans. Is that
absolutely? Yeah. The Mets are playing right now against the Dodgers, and the Yankees are playing Cleveland tonight. But I've been to New York City a couple times, and it's just there's so much to do and see there, and you can't do it in 3 or 4 days, really.
Yeah, it's very vast, and there's something for everybody there.
Absolutely. Hey, I wanted to ask you this before we get into questions. What's the difference between a stand-up comedian and doing improv?
So a stand-up comedian typically has a set routine that they go around to different places and they hone in on things. Improv, which I've done once before and I loved it. It was so great. It's just different scenarios on the fly, so you get to make things up. I know crowd work is a form of improv that has really kind of dominated the stand-up comedy well, I don't want to say dominated, but people like Matt Rife have brought a lot more attention to crowd work. And I think a lot of people think it's more crowd work than material these days. So improv is doing little exercises and skits and different things and thinking right there on your feet, whereas stand up is typically more planned. I think.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's only been 4 years. I could be wrong, Chris. Sorry.
You know what? Hey, it goes by quick, doesn't it? And I guess you started this during the pandemic, the same time I started my new career into radio and media.
Yes, yes. In August of 2020, right before my 41st birthday,
Happy belated birthday!
thank you very much. I don't know how much of this actual story I want to share, so because it's not the most appropriate, but basically I started comedy out of spite and I thought, hey, I'll do an open mic and if I like it, I'll continue. And if not, then I can say I tried and I haven't stopped since. So yeah, it was awesome. Hi. Oh, this
We
is
have a
my best
viewer.
friend and manager, Leah.
Leah. Hi, Leah. Thank you so much for watching. I was going to ask you this question, but can you tell us the story how you actually got started? And can you tell my audience a little bit about yourself? My show is based out of the Toronto area, but with our technology, it airs on a radio station just outside of Atlanta.
Awesome. A lot of great comedians in the Atlanta area. I my daughter was 13, 14 at the time. And I'm trying to do math here. I don't remember, but my ex and I, we were already broken up and we decided to still take her on some vacations. And she brought a girlfriend along with her. And we were taking a long drive and he had some male comedians playing constantly on that long drive. And I said, why don't you put on a female comedian? And he said, female comics aren't funny. That's exact his words. And I looked at him. I said, well, that's funny because I think I want to try stand up and I'm going to get really good at it. And I'm going to get a special and I'm going to tell everyone where you're lacking in the bedroom. But I didn't use those words. And we got back from vacation on a Sunday night. And that Wednesday night, I did my first open mic, and I had 27 of my teacher friends there. And I definitely told them every detail. And try to remain appropriate here, but they knew. He asked me to hide his name, and I said, well, we'll just call him Manthony. And yeah, the birth of the comedian was born in me. So yeah.
I've had a number of comedians on and a lot of female comedians, and I was going to say even in your short time as a comedian, 4 years, I find there's more and more female comedians out there, and they're just as good as the male comedians.
Yeah. And a lot of the audiences are, at least half, if not predominantly female. There's a lot of girls' night outs and bachelorette parties and things. And so the producers that aren't catering to their female audience are really just missing out on a lot. As a middle-aged woman, former teacher, single mom, I can relate a lot more with my stories to other women in similar situations, or they can imagine themselves there more so than they would from a man's perspective. So whether some of the producers or comedians that are booking these shows think the females aren't as funny, that's their perspective and they're missing out for their audience.
Absolutely. I wanted to say this too. When people think of Canada, they think of hockey beer, donuts. But we've had a lot of great we've had a lot of great comedians as well, and we had a show that was similar to Saturday Night Live back in the 70s and 80s called SCTV with John Candy, the late John Candy, Eugene Levy, Joe Flaherty, and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever saw that, but as for the comedy industry, when you were growing up, how much of an impact did Saturday Night Live have on influence you going forward into being a stand-up comedian at some point?
I had a dream to be one of the writers for Saturday Night Live, not necessarily to be on it myself, but to be a writer. It's still kind of a little dream of mine to do that. The things that pop into my head would be very interesting to put into skits and to work with actors in order to bring them to life. So yeah, it had a huge influence on me before I even realized I wanted to do stand up. I wanted to write sketch comedy.
Who were some of your favorite comedians growing up, male and female?
Lisa Lampanelli. Not sure if you're aware of her, but she was the queen
Yes.
of mean. She, I actually, somebody compared me to her in the sense that my punchlines are very fast. I try to go from laugh to laugh to laugh, and it was probably one of the best compliments I've ever gotten. Eddie Murphy, of course, George Carlin, Sam Kinison, Andrew Dice Clay. Um, Bill Cosby, unfortunately, sad to say, he was a brilliant comedian, not so much as a person, but yeah, those Carol Burnett. I used to love like all her shows, and yeah, those people really influenced me a lot. Yeah.
For me, it was Chevy Chase and Eddie Murphy and Lily Tomlin. She was in the Incredible Shrinking Woman movie.
Yes.
And
Oh, I
did you
love
ever
Lily.
see that movie? Did you ever
Yes,
see
I
that one?
did. That. One of my favorites. As somebody who is under 5 foot, and I was like a little pocket person my entire life, The Incredible Shrinking Woman was definitely one of my favorite movies. That's, I think, our age group, one of those movies.
Absolutely, yeah. As soon as I turned 50, I'm like, okay. I wish the weight could go down, but unfortunately, yeah. But
Gen X is dealing with a lot of metabolism. Our dignity and metabolism seems to have vanished at this point. So yeah, we're all working to get that back.
and being a comedian, I wanted to ask you this too. Obviously, I've learned how to ad lib on my radio show, but as for a comedian, I wanted to say, how comfortable are you with making fun of yourself? Because I find a lot of the comedians I've had on my show, a lot of their jokes are from their life stories and life experiences.
The majority, if not all of them, are from my life experience. I do some self deprecating humor, but there is a line there when the audience awes instead of laughs. You know, you've gone too far on yourself. But yeah, the majority of my material is my life experience or someone like Leah. Her life experiences kind of lead into some stories with me. So yeah, it's pretty much all real. Uh, as crazy as that is to say, and a lot of times these stories are so unbelievable and incredible that I have to tell the audience this is 100% true story because they might think, oh, this is just a bit. No, no, I didn't write that. The universe did.
You know what? And also too, anytime radio, TV, media, comedian, actor, actress, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. And I wanted to ask you this as well. Um, Obviously, you were a teacher. How much of an impact, or how much did that profession assist you into your new career? Just like my old career, it's I admit it helped me get into radio from dealing from people, and I wanted to get your thoughts on transitioning from a teacher to a stand-up comedian.
Well, it has a lot of similarities in the sense that you're talking to an audience. The difference is that a lot of times, comedy shows people pay to go there, whereas, when you're standing up in front of a room full of fifth graders, they are looking through you with laser eyes and they don't want to be there. So I had to use a lot of humor to keep the children engaged and a lot of on the fly, let's say crowd work per se, with fifth graders, and it's kind of similar when it comes to stand-up comedy, just keeping people engaged. So if I can look at a room full of 35 fifth graders that don't want to be there and just want to rip me apart, a room full of people who pay money to actually come and laugh is a lot easier than that, I'll tell you. And it smells better in not all places, but fifth grade gets a little rank when it gets warm out. So
I find this generation, their attention spans are shrinking constantly, and that's why I've learned how to edit video, because I know not everyone has 45 minutes to an hour to watch my show. So you have to learn to make things shorter because attention spans.
yeah. Yeah. And how to, once you see them starting to go, how do you bring them back in? I did a show on Friday. I stepped in for someone and I was closing out the show. And all night, the crowd was a bit tepid. And I started my material and I could tell that they were not going to appreciate the material, not enjoy it as much. And I just abandoned it for the first time ever and did strictly
Wow.
crowd work. And I went from table to table. So figuring out that line of how do I get them back in, or how do I get them engaged, or if there's a distraction, how do I pull this audience back in? So teaching helped me with that a lot for sure.
When you're doing a live performance, I was going to ask you this later, but since we're on the subject, how long does it take you normally to get a sense or engage an audience? And for most shows, do you prefer to be the opening act, the middle act, or the end act?
I guess I'm still in that newbie stage because I mean, 4 years is basically a comedy fetus still. And I'm still that I will do whatever position you need me to. You need me to host, I'll host. You want me to open, I'll open. You want me to close, I'll close. You want me to clean the bathrooms, I'll grab a mop. I'll do whatever I need to do. So I don't really have a preference. I was hosting a lot. I loved hosting. I felt I did a job of a host. And recently, as I'm starting to do longer sets and feature sets, I don't feel as comfortable anymore hosting. But yeah, a lot of people think that being an opening spot, or the first, they call it the bullet spot, is a bad thing. But in my opinion, it sets the tone for the rest. So I don't mind. If they want me to go first, I'll go first. I honestly, truly don't have a preference. The only benefits, well, there's positives and negatives. When you go first and you set the tone, you don't have to really get anxious or overthink your position anywhere else. But when you go at a later time, or when you're closing, you can do more crowd work. You can see what worked, what didn't work. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to just abandon my material and just do crowd work had I not seen the way the rest of the comedians on the show did. So positives and negatives, but yeah, I'll do anything. So if anybody's looking to book, hit me up.
I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you this too, and I'm learning this in my career in radio and media. It's important to wear many hats, because the more hats you can wear doesn't mean you have to be the best at everything. It makes you more valuable. So I wanted to ask you, Chica, for anyone that's watching this live stream or on audio, or a cheap plug for my radio station, WQEE 99.1 FM, what advice would you give to somebody that's looking to get into the comedy industry?
Go to an open mic, get a few minutes of material together, and go to an open mic and try it. I didn't know this until probably my second year of comedy, but open mics are where comedians work out new material and they fine tune material that they already have. They add tags, they try different things and facial expressions. So people say, "Oh, I bombed at a mic." You can't bomb at an open mic unless it is for a comedy club and they're using that mic as an audition. That's something separate. But even the greats, they still go to different mics and they'll just pop in these, at the comedy store, and they'll work on some new material. And they'll tell you this is new stuff. So bear with me. So my advice is, if you've ever thought about doing it, try it. Do 5 minutes. If you like it, it could make your dreams come true, like it's been doing for me. If you don't like it, you can say, "Hey, I did that once, I tried it and it wasn't for me." So find your local open mic and gather about 4 minutes of material, 3 minutes depending on the place, and then go out there and just do it. Just make people laugh and tell them jokes.
When you're doing a live show, what's the average for when you go on stage? Like, I guess it's different for each comedian. Like, what's the general length of the time you go on for on your shows?
Oh, it varies. As a host, sometimes you'll do 10 or 15 minutes up front and then maybe 1 or 2 minutes in between each act. Opening acts, 10 to 15 minutes. Features, 25, 30. Headlining, 35 to 40. Sometimes they're asking more, but I'll do whatever they tell me to do. So I think my sweet spot right now has been about 25, 30 minutes. So that's, you can take time for applause breaks and laughter. You don't have to rush through, and you can add a tiny bit of crowd work in there. So yeah, I'd say about 25 is my sweet spot right now.
Any rituals or superstitions before going on live?
Crying in my shower with a box of cookies. Is that no? I do put on some upbeat music while I'm putting on 17 layers of makeup on my face and Jersey girling my hair up a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. No, it varies depending on the distance of the show and who I'm with. Leah will drive with me a lot of times to different gigs, and we just laugh the entire time, and I just keep that energy. So I don't have anything that I do every single time yet. We'll see.
One other aspect I wanted to ask you about as well is the comedy writing aspect. I'm assuming you write all your jokes, and where do you get some of your inspirations for some of your jokes? And what advice would you give to somebody when they want to be a comedian? Would you suggest they do the writing aspect of it first before they do the performing?
That's a great question. I think it really depends on the person. I make a lot of bad life choices, and I get to pull a lot of comedy from
Same
that.
here.
See, it works when you know you're not supposed to do something. You're like, I think I'm going to do that anyway. Now I can say, well, that's just comedic research. So I would say gathering a few minutes of material to start on stage, and then developing your stage presence, and then repeating that over and over again. I, being a teacher and having done other things, I was a cheerleader and for many years. And so I had been used to performing a bit, and my stage presence, thankfully, was a little bit more comfortable than a lot of people when they first start. But for someone who is maybe a little nervous about getting in front of people, once they get a few minutes of material, just getting up there and doing it over and over again until they're comfortable, I think would be the best route.
The more reps you do of something, the more comfortable you get. I'm going to give you a little quick story about myself. When I was in elementary school, high school, or even college, back in my 20s, I'm ancient by the way. I hated public speaking. I avoided it, and now being 52 years old, I am quite comfortable being in front of a camera, in front of people, and speaking. And the best way I've learned this for some of my guests. I first started this. I scripted everything, and one of my guests said, "Chris, it's okay to write points and notes down, but have a natural conversation with your guest. Think on your feet, ab lib, and natural conversation is the best way to go."
Absolutely. And it just flows a little bit more naturally when we're going a back and forth and we have a banter and a dialogue rather than sticking to certain points. Like when you said earlier, well, while we're on the topic, rather than sticking to your notes and then going to something else. Yeah, I completely agree. I think comedy is very similar, connecting to the audience and letting them know this is not just a bit that I do every single show. This is something that I'm telling you personally, you people that are here paying for this show. This is for you specifically. So yeah.
And ab libbing too. I've learned the ab lib here, and I'm certain ab libbing is huge in the comedy industry too.
Oh yeah, and that's where the crowd work can come into play. If you know that you have a bit about something and you see an audience member, they say something that relates to that bit. Now you can pivot into changing what you might have had planned for that and then work that into it. So yeah, ad libbing, adding little tags, responding to people. I think that's huge for sure.
When you first started out 4 years ago, how competitive is the comedy industry, and how important is it to surround yourself with a strong support system and the right people going into this industry?
Well, well, that's a many level question there. So I have been very blessed to meet the most amazing people. Delaware has a wonderful community. Delaware's a very tiny state. And there's a lot of comedians here that are willing to help each other and just take people under their wing. And I had a lot of great mentors that really helped me out, that not only helped me with material, but also helped me to figure out what direction I needed to go to. There's a wonderful comedian that lives in Delaware now, but she's actually from Nova Scotia. Her name is Belinda Clear. And
Okay.
oh, she's amazing and hilarious. And she took me under her wing. And I remember when I first started, she said, Chica, you got to stop dressing like a PTA mom up there on stage. And the next show, I was wearing leather pants and high heels. And she said, okay, you understood the assignment. So little things like that that can make a difference, that made me look more of a performer and not just somebody that decided to come in off the street and pick up a mic. So as far as competition goes, you asked about the competition, the cutthroatness of it, generally speaking. That was your question, right?
Yeah, yeah, because like
Okay.
you said, it's like any career, you're gonna get your successes and yeses, and you're also gonna get your no's. And I don't use the word failure. I take the word no as a temporary setback, and that's what I tell these students too. You're not always gonna get yes, but if someone tells you no, just look at it as a temporary setback and use it as motivation to keep improving and keep learning. And most importantly, any career you're in, you can't be complacent. The day you get complacent is the time you probably should move on.
And understanding the no, I think is very important. Why did I get rejected for this? Why do they not want to book me? I will say that I am a part of a very tiny community. There are not a lot of female Latina comedians in the area. So I get booked a lot. And, I'm not saying that that's the only reason I get booked, but a lot of times they need a woman, they need a person of color. And I am a Latina, and they're like, well, hey, let's pick her. So that has helped me out a lot. And the no's that people get, I hate to say this, I haven't needed to send out any tapes really, or I haven't put myself in the position to get rejected yet, which is coming. I am going to start expanding, but a lot of it has been through word of mouth, recommendations, people that have used me and want to use me again, or people that have worked with me and seen me perform and they wanted to have me on one of their shows. So I've been very fortunate that way.
And
That's
it's
not
and
every experience for
And
sure.
it's also, and you also have to believe in yourself and have a strong mindset. And you also got to promote yourself too. I've got my own mug with my logo and brand. I have my friend James from Michigan does celebrities. I'm not a celebrity, but he was nice enough to do one for me. Maybe one day I'll see if he can do one for you.
That would be awesome. I have a very large head though, so I feel like
So
I
do
would
I.
need
I have a huge head. I have a 7 5/8 head.
I've never actually measured because that I would cry for about 3 days. But yeah, I would probably need to be like on a cereal bowl or something. I don't know. So,
Absolutely. Branding and promoting yourself is huge. Wanted to ask you this too. When you started your career into stand-up comedy around the same time I did, pandemic really affected things. Did you end up doing some live streaming performances as well? And what's your thoughts on live streaming comedy?
so I actually So it was August of 2020 when I started, when things started to open up. And I live in Delaware, and let's be honest, even COVID didn't want to come to the state. It's not very good. So some things were open, and so I was able to do it live. And I think it's great because, having been a new comedian, I would not have really understood the dynamics of things, because you get a lot of energy and motivation from your crowd. If the crowd is on fire and they're laughing at everything you say, it just kind of fills you up. When you're doing it virtually, it's a lot harder because you don't have that energy, you don't have the laughter, you don't know if they're actually engaged. I did some VR comedy, which was really neat because you could actually see the little heads laughing, and you knew you were doing well because the little heads are bouncing up and down. And when you weren't doing well, they were just kind of sitting there. So I really enjoyed the virtual reality, the meta kind of comedy scene. But a lot of people did Zoom comedy shows, and I never did. I don't know how that would work, but as a comedian just starting out, I don't know that I would have been able to do that. Just not getting the instant feedback to kind of energize me, so to speak.
During the pandemic and there was no sports on, I needed some entertainment. So I ended up I had some friends that work at Flappers in Burbank, California, and they
Yeah.
did some Zoom shows, and it was good because I got to see them perform. But I can see from their perspective too, it's not as engaging as a live performances. And it's like with my show, I do this virtually, but I also do in-person interviews as well. And there's nothing better than being around people at people contact as well, as much as I love doing virtual too.
Yeah. And it's a matter of the connection that we talked about with the audience. You and I are able to have a dialogue and we can connect, but can we really connect to an audience unless they're commenting? With same with comedy, being able to connect to that audience is so important. And for those people that were able to do it via Zoom, I commend them, because I think I'm still kind of a little wet behind the ears in that aspect. So I would need to have done a lot more, for sure.
On average, how many shows do you do per week?
Right now, it's about two a week. Sometimes it's three, but that is pretty rare for somebody that's only been doing it my amount of time. But like I said earlier, I check a lot of boxes and I fill a need that people have. And yeah, so about average two shows a week every single weekend. Actually, so last weekend I was I had another thing I was supposed to do that weekend. So I had turned down some gigs, and then that ended up not working out for many reasons. But I on Thursday night, somebody reached out and said, "Hey, I know this is probably a long shot, but our headliner can't do it. Can you?" And it just, I mean, the universe provided me with a show, even though I didn't have one. So it's just been awesome that way. So yeah. I'm very blessed. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, because I'm not. I'm still kind of in shock. I have a little bit of that imposter syndrome. Like, what, me? Like, what do you mean? But yeah. So that was a very long-winded. So two a week, 2 week.
Can you just tell us a little bit about Leah, and how you met her?
Ah, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. Maybe my grape juice. Leah and I have not known each other very long. I was already doing comedy when we met, but she posted about wanting to do a podcast about being a single mom, and these stories, because being a single mom in today's world and dating, the stories.
Yes, dating.
Oh,
Yeah.
I could do hours of material just on that. But she we had mutual friends, and she posted about it. And then I sent her a DM. I said, "Hey, I would love to do that." And so we started our own podcast. It's called That's So Loca, and we're on hiatus for a bit, but we're going to get back into it. And she came out to a show, and we were instant friends. She believed in me right from the very beginning. And she's always been a huge supporter. She gets me gigs. She comes out to a lot of shows, but really, oh, sorry. She really is a good true friend that I can say anything to and she won't judge. And that I think is a huge there's the heart. I think it's a huge deal when it comes to trying something like this. Like when you asked about the support system earlier, I'm surrounded by wonderful and amazing people that help me, that come to shows. They see the same thing over and over again. They share my shows. They do so much. And Leah is one of those, like, right there on top. So she manages a lot of my social media things, TikToks. She's wonderful.
That's a full-time job itself, because I wore many hats doing this, and some days I put in like 16, 17 hours with doing social media promoting. So I think that's wonderful. You got somebody there. One day it would be nice for me to be able to hire somebody, but you know what? Long term, it's good that I know how to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do it well. I have to say, just looking at your pages and the things that you do, you do an excellent job of branding yourself, and your pages look extremely professional. So yeah,
Thank
kudos
you.
to you.
Well,
Us
thank
late
you. Thank you.
bloomers.
Yes, I'm 52, but you know what? I feel like I'm 25. And one thing too, I've learned to work with younger people and people that are older than me. I even had a gentleman on my show a couple years ago before he passed away. His name was Marty Ross. He was a 82-year-old comedian out in Los Angeles. He switched careers as a comedian when he was in his mid 60s.
Wow. Wow. I thought 41 was bad. I was like, well, I'm a little, late to the
No,
game, but yeah, or good, I should say, depending. But
no,
I
when I started this too, I had this stereotypes and that from my other job. Oh, young people, attitude, poor work ethic. But I have met a lot of young people that are in the radio and media industry like myself, and they've been really good. And it's kind of, I've done a lot of more growing the last 5 years doing this than I did in my last career.
Absolutely. I think the difference might be with the younger people, at least in comedy. Um, and this doesn't go for everyone, because I know a lot of younger people who are starting comedy that don't do this, but a good majority of them don't really understand the teamwork and support aspect of it. A lot of the wonderful woman I worked with, Meredith Sayer, she just started comedy. She's, same kind of thing as me. She put on her first show and she used all women. She didn't advertise it as a woman show. She just knows, hey, if we help each other out, if we promote each other, it's going to be great. Whereas a lot of the younger comedians in age, not as far as how long they've been doing it, but they're focused on themselves and they don't have that idea that the rest of us learned, probably later in life, that teamwork makes the dream work. Some supporting someone else is not going to take away from your success. It's actually going to help all of you. So I think that's the difference between the Gen Zers, maybe, young millennials, I guess, or old millennials. But yeah.
Absolutely. And it's the storytelling aspect as well. Even though I'm not a comedian, I love the storytelling aspect. And also too, as much as talking is important, it's also important too. Listening is huge as well. And what's your thoughts on the listening skills for your stand-up comedy career?
One of the things that I learned early on, from one of the people that mentored me, was to listen to the other comedians doing their sets, especially if you're not going up first or if it's a mic situation. And I notice a lot of people don't do that. So when it's a showcase or there's a good number of comedians on, they'll pick the same people in the crowd and they'll ask the same questions. And I remember one show in New York, a comedian got up and asked the question, and the crowd was so annoyed. They're like, oh my gosh, weren't you paying attention? So for me, listening to what the other comedians are doing, what's working, what's not doing, who are they picking out, what did they say to that person, how can I play off of that, is very, very important. If you don't listen to what the other comedians are saying and doing, you don't know how to adjust your set. If I am doing a teacher show, it's a theme show, so we're going to be doing teacher topics, but I don't want to touch on the same exact things that they're talking talking about. I want to switch up my topics just a little bit. But if I'm on a show that doesn't have a theme and there are other teachers on the show, then I'm going to leave that teacher material and I'm just going to do other material. So it's so important, in my opinion, to listen to everybody else and what they're doing up there on stage. And then afterward, because I get to reflect on my own set when I see people go after me and see what works and what doesn't work and the things that they say and do, and know why maybe some things didn't hit as well or maybe hit more than usual.
And I have a friend of mine who I met through my show. She was a guest on a couple months ago. She's a stand-up comedian out in Los Angeles. Her name is Paula Jane Newman. And I want to say hi to Paula and thank you for her watching. I hope one day you can meet her. She's originally from the UK and she came to the States. And that's what I love about this show, just meeting people from different countries, different cities. And I wanted to ask you this as well. What is the biggest audience you've performed in front of, and maybe some of your toughest crowds? And I know some comedians that have done shows in the States, in Canada, and the US, the West Coast and East Coast. Is every city, state have different humor?
Some things work better in certain areas than others, for sure. Some things that are funny here in this area, I'll go up to New York. We talked about self-deprecating humor. I talked a little bit about how I lost some weight, and it was not well received at all up there. And somebody came up to me after the show, just like, you should have body positivity. And it's like, that's the humor of it all. So then I had to make a joke and say, it's not about body positivity, it's about my bank account negativity, and I can't afford new clothes. So, moving on. But being in that area where they're a little bit more woke, for lack of better words, is very different than when I went down to Jacksonville, North Carolina 2 weeks ago, where they just loved everything and you can say whatever you wanted. If you go into more rural areas, you have to think about talking about things that are more relatable to them, because some things that are going to work in the big city are not going to work in rural areas. So yeah, it's very different. I've been up and down the East Coast. I've been to Vegas. I performed in Vegas. That was a blast. I think it really depends on your area and thinking about your material and are they going to appreciate that. And I hate to say this, but there are some areas that are not real keen on the lady folk. And so there are certain topics that if you approach that audience with them, they're going to immediately tune you out, and you're going to lose them, and they're not going to want to continue to listen, and it just makes it a lot harder. So I've been very fortunate. I've done audiences of 300.
Wow.
Which, yeah. There
That's a lot.
was a bunch of comedians that have done different VFW circuits, and they had a huge one. And I remember looking out, and I was like, this is really happening right now? And it was awesome. And it was mostly a predominantly white and Southern Delaware kind of crowd, which can be a mix of a lot of things. But I thought, hey, maybe this isn't going to work. And I went out there and they loved it and they had a blast. So yeah, that was a huge, huge audience. But
Which comedy crowd is tougher, New York City or Philadelphia?
oh gosh, you're going to get me beaten up in either city here, Chris. I've done a lot more in the Philadelphia area than I've done in New York, but I will say they each have their little quirks, and they each have a lot of their benefits. So I'm going to plead the fifth on that one, as my answer may incriminate me and get my 4'10" ass whooped. I mean, they can try, but yeah.
4'10". You'll be
4'10"
looking.
and a half.
Oh, you'll be looking down at me soon.
Oh, well, right now, what? You're still.
I think I'm around 5'5", 5'6". I think.
Okay, I was gonna say that is actually very tall for somebody that is my height. So yeah.
Any challenges? Like when you do your shows, is there any challenges due to your height?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. If I'm doing a bar gig or a place that doesn't have a stage, and I'm not wearing heels, it's a lot of times that's one of the reasons I wear heels is so people can see me because a lot of my humor does involve my facial expressions, and my eyes especially. So if they can't see me, I do my closing bit. One of my closers has I use a visual aid, and if they can't see me, then it's not going to go over well. So yeah, that can be a bit of a challenge being so short, especially when I'm on level with them and people are taller than me sitting down. The people behind them aren't going to be able to see me. So yeah, that has posed a bit of a challenge sometimes.
I got to give you credit because I don't know how women can wear high heel shoes and walk in those shoes. So for me for footwear, I wear Skechers because they're very comfortable and stuff like that. I can't even wear Nikes anymore. I guess the older you get, I just want to be more comfortable.
Yes, it's comfort over fashion. Every other point in my life until I get ready to get on that stage and I throw on the big heels, I do my thing, shake some hands, take some pictures, and then I take my flats out of my little Dora the Explorer book bag and I put them on and I walk back to my car. So it's a very temporary thing for sure.
Any plans to eventually come over to Canada to do some comedy or international shows as well in the future?
That's the goal. I have been through ooh, some things in my life, as everyone has. But I feel that bringing people laughter, making them laugh and forget about the issues that they're going through at that moment, at least for a few minutes, is just such a goal to me. So the more places I can go and see and meet people and share laughter with them and help them look at me and maybe say, hey, it could be worse. I could be going through what she did, or I think that's the goal. I would love to go out to Canada and see if my humor would work. Do you guys have Puerto Ricans in Canada? Is that a
Yes, we're very multicultural here in Canada. So yeah, as Toronto is very similar to New York, but we are very diverse here. So yeah, and we have Second City here, and we're known for a lot of great comedians and actors and that as well.
awesome? Awesome. I would absolutely love it. I think that getting to learn about other people's culture is huge to me, and the the stories that I have, I don't want to say created, or been able to experience, I should say, and use on stage from meeting different people in different areas is just phenomenal. So yeah, that's the goal. I would like to get one of those vans and make be one of those van life people, with a kitchen and all that. Not that I cook,
And the
but
dice, the roller dice on the mirror. I grew up in the '70s, so I remember the shag
no,
carpeting.
not the pedo van, not that kind of van, or the musician van, but more one of those new vans that they've got the bedroom and the little shower in there, and just it's kind of like a mini tour bus, that kind of van. I want to be able to live in one of those and just travel around the country and Canada, just to just spread laughter and joy.
Interviewing a lot of comedians and people from the media industry and even musicians, I see so many similarities between comedians and musicians because a lot of them they sing and perform because they it's a passion of theirs and they want to share their life stories into their songwriting and also their mental health. Music is very powerful, just like comedy. It can help people a lot, and as we talked about before we went live, it's a lot cheaper than going to a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah, it is therapy for sure. Going through some things and being able to write about it. And recently, it's been an interesting few weeks, but I carry my notebook in my book bag now, and it comes with me everywhere I go. And I just pull it out, and I've written more new material in the past 3 weeks, month, every single day than I've written in the last 4 years. And just pulling it out and writing, okay, this is what happened. How do I make that funny? How do I make it relatable to somebody who hasn't gone through it, but has gone through something similar, to let them know it's going to be okay and also to laugh about it? So yeah, it really is like therapy so much.
And Leah still watching, which is good. Great answer and great. So I appreciate her watching. Gotta ask you this too. For those people that are watching this still live stream or on audio or my radio station, again, WQE 99.1 FM, what are a couple words to describe your comedy style? And do you still feel there's a sense of slapstick comedy out there? Actually, can you describe a few other styles of comedy? I grew up with the slapstick comedy, and if you could just explain to us your style.
Okay. I don't know the technical terms, but I'd say I am uh very fast paced, very loud, boisterous. It's a natural thing of my people. We're very loud, but I am able to keep the audience engaged just by boom, 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 just fast. Some people tell stories that take a lot longer, and they don't have as many laughs per se, but when they finally get that payoff, it's heavy. I'm more of a, laugh, 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 laugh kind of thing. I spread it out a little bit more evenly, so to speak. I think it's just, I feel uncomfortable with silences. And if people aren't laughing for too long, if something takes too long to set up, I don't like it. I'm like, they hate me. It's done. So I tend to go a little faster. There are a lot of people that are storytellers that take a little bit longer. There are people that do a lot of one-liners or, the kind of dad joke thing per se. Yeah, there's a lot of different styles. Some people are more in your face. They've got that angry thing going, and some are, very demure. And there's a lot of like Tig Notaro is one that I really appreciate because she is so low. Just it is what it is. There's nothing, and I'm the exact opposite of that. But it's hilarious the way she does it. She's just the part of her, I don't want to say apathy because that's not the right word, but her presence, let's say, is not as in your face as some of the others. And that's what makes it even funnier. The pausing, the waiting, the slow pace of it, and the hard hitting punchlines. It's wonderful. That wouldn't work for me because my anxiety would probably make me pass out in the middle. But yes, different styles of that. I don't know if that made any sense. Probably a little too much grape juice.
Enjoy. Hey, I wanted to ask you this too. Since we're in a political correct world now, how much has that changed the comedy industry, even in the last few years that you've been in the industry?
Oh, it is it's actually funny because one of my opening bits, whether I'm hosting or I am just doing my own routine, I always say, can we agree not to get offended? And I kind of make the audience get in there, and I say, because if you are going to get offended, you can go up to, let's say, the playground, or if there's a Chuck E. Cheese. I did a show in Yonkers and there was a Legoland right next to it, that kind of thing. I'm like, because you can go to Legoland with the other children. This is comedy night. We're here to laugh. So don't get offended because people are going to say some things that you might not agree with. So I tell people that up front because people get so offended so easily. I also think there is a fine line with being completely disrespectful and just saying things for shock value without making them into comedy. And I think there's a fine line there, but people want to cancel anything. I got to say this. I got to meet Ice-T. It was the coolest thing. I got to meet his wife and their child. It was the most awesome experience. But he posted something the other day on his Instagram. A woman commented because he's a musician as well, and somebody wrote, are we all just going to ignore that he did the Nazi salute in the middle of his performance? And he reposted it like it's the most ridiculous thing. Ice-T, a former rapper, SVU guy, African American, why would he do that? It was an arm motion, but people want to get offended. People want to be offended and they want to make a big stink out of it. They want to make it seem like they're so in touch and they're so woke. So they're going to get offended. They're going to find offense in anything. So, what I feel is I'm going to tell my truth. I'm going to say the things that I feel are important to me, where some people get offended in my Puerto Rican humor. And I'm like, you Puerto Ricans don't get offended. They love it. So why are you going to get offended on behalf of my people? So I think it's starting to go back a little bit where people are saying, hey, we're just being ridiculous. But there are still those people that are going to look at someone like Ice-T and say, hey, he did the Nazi salute. What? Like, it's just so preposterous to so many people. That's an extreme example, but even little things that people say, oh, she's racist against Puerto Ricans. And then I'm like, I'm actually Puerto Rican and you're not. So I can say these things. So people get offended about things, but you got to do what you got to do and have a purpose for what you're saying. Make it funny, make it be real to you.
And you know what? This is for any career too. People are going to support you and love your work, but you're not always going to be somebody's cup of tea. And you're also going to see haters and people that want to try to belittle your success as well and bring you down.
Leah, you hear that? Yeah, she gets the phone calls about things that happen. But yeah, I always say I'm not for everybody. If you don't like me, maybe I had a bad set, or maybe you just don't like me or what I have to say. That's okay. Not everybody's gonna like everyone. There are so many comedians that have huge followings and specials, and I don't find their humor relatable or funny. They don't make me laugh personally, but they're good at what they do. They're talented and they have a following. I'm not going to be for anyone, and that's okay. I got some haters. I thought it was awesome. I was like, yes, like I'm relevant enough in that moment for you to just like me, and you didn't even know me. So anything to me, if you're talking about me or you're paying attention, I guess that's a good thing, because I honestly don't even know who they were to this day. So there's a lot of that too within the comedy community as well. Some comedians will look at another comedian and say, well, they're not funny, but they are booking and they're making audiences laugh. So they might not be funny to you, or maybe you caught them on a bad day, or they're not your style, but that doesn't mean they are not funny as a comedian and what they do. But yeah, people are going to hate, haters going to hate. And I kind of like it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Leah's got another comment. She's definitely knows how to tell her life stories in short punch lines with lots of humor, heavy pace, and it's all engaging.
She's wonderful. She really is. She helps me out so much. Just what works, what doesn't work. We come up with new punchlines together, and really, it's a lot of real life experience that we're just laughing at. And then I'll say something, and she'll say something, and then it happened a little bit ago. I'm like, ooh, and I got my notebook and I wrote it down. It's just our humor together. It helps me write things for stage. So yeah.
Leah has an open invite to come back to come on my show if she's ever interested. And I would definitely like to have you back on my show again in the future as well. Are you still good for time for a little longer?
I have nothing going on in my life. So this is, no, I'm kidding. No, I'm good. I'm good as long as you take
Okay.
what you need. And
Okay.
I'm enjoying this for sure. And Leah she's hilarious too. Our
She's
pod,
hired.
huh?
She's hired. And by the way, your
Yeah.
podcast, when it does come back, what social media platforms is it on for people to subscribe and check it out?
We were doing the Facebook Live, but I think we're gonna expand a little bit, and we'd love to have you on as a guest, Chris, for sure. You'd be amazing. We do a lot of, it's a humorous podcast, but we do a lot of we usually have comedians or entertainers and other people on, and we pick a topic that relates to dating and relationships, and or lack thereof in Leah and my case. Just what it's like to be somebody of a certain age that isn't married, or someone that was married, or maybe is married but wants to set some cautionary tales for people. So yeah, we have a lot of fun. We just laugh. There's a lot of grape juice, and yeah, we just tell stories. So yeah, we'd love to have you on, and we'll do an episode with you. We'll come up with a special topic for you, Chris.
Absolutely. Hey, and when I first started this a few years ago, sports is my number one passion. But in the last couple of years, if you check out my shows and my work, what I'm most proud of is the diverse lineup of guests and topics. And I've had psychiatrists on my show, doctors on my show. I've had dating coaches on my show. And what I love about this is the storytelling aspect and also the learning aspect of it as well.
So the psychologist, you have links for them? Because I definitely need to I need to get with
I'm working on getting Kelsey Grammer Fraser on my show.
what?
I would love to get him on my show.
That is awesome. Hey Chris, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but
No, go ahead.
being a sports guy, I kind of want to return the favor for that New York Philly question there. What is your feeling about Eagles fans, Philadelphia Eagles
I'm a
fans?
Philadelphia Eagle fan. So
What?
I do some freelance media work for some professional sports teams and the National Football League as well. So Philadelphia, they're very passionate about their sports. They're very hard and harsh, but when your team wins and does well, they love you. And what I noticed about Eagle fans, they want to see you work hard. They want to see sweat, tears, and blood. And even if you lose, as long as you're working hard and you're trying and you care, it's when the players, some of them don't care or don't put out a good effort, then they get on you. So if you win and you're successful, they're all behind you. But if you underachieve and you don't work hard, and they can see that, and they do that with all their sports teams, and that's why I love the Philadelphia Eagles. And one of their former players, he's from actually I think Delaware maybe. His name is Vince Papale. They did a
Yeah,
movie about him, Invincible, in 1996,
yeah.
and
Mark
he was the
Wahlberg.
reason. Yes, that was a great movie, and he was the reason I became an Eagles fan because he was a bartender back in the 70s at the age of 31, and he got a tryout for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he beat the odds, and that's why I love the Philadelphia Eagles and the city of Philadelphia is being the underdog and the long shot and their passion. So that's a little bit about why I
Yeah.
like the Eagles.
I love it. I mean, Eagles fans, they'll turn over a car whether they win or lose. They don't care. Like, it's awesome. Leah is definitely a diehard Eagles fan. So
She's
I love
hired.
it. And I will say the Vince Papali story, it kind of relates to you and I both in the sense that we're a lot later in life starting these careers than the other people I'd say who are doing it, and just not giving up and not letting our age or life get in the way, and just continuing to pursue our dreams despite maybe the years against us, or which way. So I always love that story to me is just absolutely fantastic.
And sometimes with a guest, I've had some where they were not cold or distance, but once they brought up a subject, then they just open right up. And that's what I try to do. I want all my guests to feel comfortable and trust with me. And by the way, when I do media work for these professional sports teams, I get to see a different side of the athletes and the coaches and the players that the fans don't. So even though I'm a fan of my own teams, now doing media work, I want to be objective, and I always want people to know, hey, this guy's not a homer, he's objective. If my team's not playing well, I'm not going to be afraid to let them know. So
Yeah,
that's my style of doing media work and radio work.
that's awesome. And I will say you have a very inviting demeanor, and you've made me feel comfortable right from the very beginning. So I really appreciate that. I think a lot of people that come on these things don't know what to expect, and you right away just you eased into it, and yeah, you made me feel very comfortable and welcome. So great job to you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm still trying to get used to praise, but one thing I pride myself on too, every show I want to learn something about my guest, and I just it's called doing your homework. And if you want to be successful in any career, you have to do your homework. And guests remember that. If you have a show and you're just faking stuff and stuff like that, guests can sense that. And when you do your homework and you're prepared, guests really do appreciate that. And I'm sure that's the same way as a stand-up comedian. When you do your homework and you prepare and stuff like that, people really appreciate the extra effort you do.
I will say, just even the flyer and the questions that you asked, I was super impressed. I was like, wow, he how did he know that? So yeah, you kudos to you for that. That was absolutely amazing. I appreciate that very much. I'm actually I don't know if this is a plug, but I starting today, I'm going to post the link on my social media, but I'm doing a fabulous over 40 contest thing for a magazine, and they're looking for people who are fabulous over 40 and why. And one of the things that I put was because I realized that once I got to a certain age, and that for me, that was 40, as I was turning 41, that life was too short and I needed to do something that I absolutely loved with a passion. And I loved teaching. It was wonderful to a point because I was so limited as to what I could do for the children. And so stand up comedy, instead of, helping a few children at a time as much as I can, stand up comedy can bring awareness to a lot of the things that are happening in the public schools. And it was just a bigger platform. And I don't think I would have had the, tenacity, so to speak, to do it before I turned 40. So everything just kind of worked out in that favor. And as you know, the older we get, the less we care about what people think, and the more we are willing to do what makes us happy. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And my last career, I was in corporate security. So I had to deal with rich people, poor people. I had to deal with people with mental health issues. I had to learn to think on my feet. I had to learn to listen. So, in a way, my former career kind of prepared me for this.
Hmm. Very much so. And I think the lens of life experience really just, I mean, helps in so many different ways, as you know. The experience we got from our former careers, but also the life experience and the self awareness. I'm a lot more self aware now than I was ever in my life. I look back and I think, that what was I thinking? I say that a lot. And that's like, for yesterday too. So being older and just experiencing these new careers with that lens of experience is just, it's wonderful. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Hey, we still got a few more minutes, but I
Mhm.
wanted to show one of your clips from your YouTube channel. Would you like to plug your YouTube channel? And I've already hit the subscribe notification.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's Chica Loca comedy. Please bear with it. It's brand new, actually, to the point that I just made the video to put on there. So yes, I will be putting more clips, and as I start to retire bits, I will be putting those on there. It's going to be a lot of crowd work, and sketches are going to be up there too. I've done a lot of sketches that haven't been public, or that's a whole nother story. But yeah, those will be up on there too, where I'm going to be performing. So yeah, everything is Chica Loca comedy, from Instagram to TikTok to YouTube. So yeah, there'll be more stuff up there for sure.
And YouTube is a lot of work, and I've learned how to edit video too. So, but YouTube is very useful. Same with TikTok. I learned how to cut promos for my guests, myself, my media work, and edit videos from TikTok too. So, I had this stereotype 4 years ago. TikTok was nonsense. It was for kids, and you know what? It's really, really helped me develop and grow as a radio and media personality.
I used to think with the TikTok dances and all, I used to think, I like my social media without physical exercise, and then it started to grow, and now it really is a great platform that I have to do a lot better at checking, because there's certain things, and Leah again is wonderful, and she helps with a lot of that, because I yeah, it's a lot, like you said, between Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, and probably 7 more that'll pop out in the next year. That is essential to being an entertainer. So keeping up with all of it is can be a little overwhelming. I'm gonna do it because
One thing I was going to say too, and this goes for any career too, you know what? When you first start into a new career, don't always focus on the audience or the numbers. Focus on having good shows, good guests, and eventually the body of work, people will notice it. And that's how I've been able to get 420 guests on the last 4.5 years. Because once I started getting a guest on, the word of mouth spreads, and then people are like, hey, I like this guy's demeanor, I like his show or your shows, and that's how you do that's how you build and grow.
that is wonderful advice, and thank you for that. It's like that how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and it seems
Baby
very
steps.
overwhelming. Yes, yes. So thank you. I will yeah, I'll continue plugging away like the little engine that could.
All right,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna play this video right now. Thank you for letting me use this, and I'll make sure everybody subscribes to your YouTube channel, and we'll build that up for you too.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Just let me know if you can hear the audio okay.
Everybody do me a favor real quick. Can you say hola, chica? All right, you're all Puerto Ricans right now, okay? Okay, so y'all don't get offended. For the next 20 minutes only. So don't go out after the show getting pregnant or stealing shit or anything, you know what I'm saying? Right? It used to be a strip club. I stepped on something sticky. I was like, fuck, I'm pregnant again. God damn. Holy shit. Isn't that crazy? I did a show in Amish Town in Pennsylvania last night. It was a true story. Yeah. I was like, where are my Latinos? Dead ass silence. Silence. I was like, what about the kitchen? No, are we like in the kitchen? No, it wasn't. No. We literally passed a horse and buggy to get to that fucking show. And I was like, oh shit. There are Amish Puerto Ricans. Amish Rican, that's what they were. I was like, oh shit. I knew they were Puerto Rican because on the front of the buggy, there was a little Puerto Rican flag. And it was bouncing like on hydraulics. And also it was stolen. So yeah. I was like, that's my people right there. That she's nice, nurturing, and loving to them. Anybody else smell bullshit? Right. Okay, so you, Big Boobs McGee, teacher titties. Sorry, they were just like right there. I'm like, wait, what am I talking about again? It's fine. It's fine. I'll be gay for today. It's fine. I went to college and it's good. So are these like 3 and 4-year-olds? Oh, so they're thinking lunch. Okay, I got
Do any of these sex talk with them? Oh, very little. I hope you don't do that when you're talking to them.
Although I will tell you, where's that sexy ass DJ bouncer motherfucker? Y'all see him when you walked in? Oh, you didn't see him with the tattoos, bald head, twisted. Yeah, there he is. Fucking round of applause for him. I'm just saying, I'd relapse for you, dude. Holy shit, how tall are you? Oh my God, 6'3". Oh my God, I'm 4'10". We couldn't actually 69. Can you imagine that? Like, my feet would be in his face. It'd be like a 34 and a half. So can everybody...
Thoughts on that performance? And I guess that was just recently.
Yeah, that was last weekend, so a little over a week ago. Yeah, those are within the past month and a half. The little tiny things, and I still have trouble watching myself. So when I put them together, I kind of like, and I watch them, and I laugh out of ridiculousness. But yeah, I know, I don't know if you know this, and I just recently learned a lot of comedians don't put out their material because of the chance that it might get stolen, but also until they put out a special, they keep using the material in different places. So they don't want people to get bored when they come out to shows, or, things that people have already seen online. So a lot of times when you see crowd work clips, that's not their actual set. They're just doing that. I didn't know this. This is something I recently learned. So someone told me not to put out material clips until I have put out a special or I've retired a certain bit. So
I had no idea about that, and I appreciate you explaining that. Do you find there is a lot of stolen material used by comedians in this industry?
It's funny because there is a lot of lack of original thought, so to speak. I mean, everything's been said and done. So there are a lot of similarities in people's thoughts and ideas. If the delivery and timing and punchline are the same, that's stolen material. And I see it happen all the time. Even just, let's say, with podcasters, they'll use a joke that a comedian has done on stage and they won't give that comedian credit. So I've seen a lot of issues with that. But yeah, people will see something and are like, that's great, I'm going to work that into my routine. And it's mind blowing to me, because somebody thought of that and put their time, effort, and energy into it. And now you're going to take it. So I know a lot of times, I have a very good friend of mine who was doing a bit that she didn't know that another comedian did, and it was very similar in wording. And so once she heard that, she stopped doing it. She was like, I didn't know that. She had never seen this other comedian perform. So sometimes it's accidental, but when you put it out there, you have the risk of people saying, that's great, I'm putting that into mine, I might have a bigger following, so now I'm going to put it out and people are going to think you took it from me, that sort of thing. Although I will say mine is pretty unique to me and my specific situation. So I'd be really hard pressed to see some of the material that people could steal.
Because anytime I have anyone on and I showcase their work through their YouTube channel or website, I always make sure I give them credit. And if I've got some kind of sports news I want to put on here, I always mention the person's name and where they're reporting from. I like to give people credit for their work, and I would like, hopefully, one day someone to do the same thing for me as well. It's called professional respect.
Absolutely. Because they wouldn't appreciate somebody doing that to them. So absolutely.
Before we wrap this up, I want to put you on the spot here. How much would you say you've grown and progressed as a comedian in your fourth year in the industry? And is there some areas where you still want to keep improving upon?
That's a great question. Not putting me on the spot at all. I almost can't watch material from even a few months ago. The growth that I feel that I've had as a comedian, as a performer, is, I don't even recognize some of the sets that I did. I was a little nervous. I was overthinking a lot of things. I wasn't as comfortable taking risks. And now, and I have a long ways to go, especially material wise. I have one bit that I really use to close out, and I feel like I need to find some more of those bits. I also want to work on a clean comedy. As you can see with all the bad words that I use, it's just natural to me, New Yorican, like we use a lot of F words and it just comes out. So I am really trying to work on not using that as much, or using it for a purpose. But when I'm up there, it just kind of comes out because that's naturally who I am. So working on cleaner things, and yeah, just really writing and getting better material is something I really need to improve on. But I'm not the same comedian I was 6 months ago, never mind 4 years ago.
What do you love the most about the comedy industry, and what are some of the hardest aspects of the comedy industry?
I love the camaraderie of a show when you have a lot of great performers on there that are just hungry to entertain and do well, and they want to lift each other up. It's so exciting. I think one of the biggest challenges is getting out of your own way. I have that problem a lot. I tend that imposter syndrome that we talked about earlier. I think being able to accept, hey, you are able to make these people forget their issues for a little bit. You are able to you can do it. I don't know if I mentioned about filling in on Friday. I almost suggested that one of the other comedians on the show close out. And I had to stop myself and say, no, they've asked you to cover for somebody. You're going to do this. And being able to have the confidence in myself that a lot of other comedians have. Sometimes when I see other comedians and like, oh, I killed it, I crushed it. And I look and I'm thinking, we have very different definitions of crushing. Because for me, that would have crushed me and I would be crying for 3 days. So I guess getting a little bit more of a confidence and saying, hey, I can do this is really the biggest struggle for me. But being able to work with so many amazing people and laughing and hearing their stories about their comedy life, that's just the most exciting thing to me. Meeting people after shows, oh my gosh, when people come up to me after shows, I don't care what they're saying, even if it's something they're like, you should have body positivity, or you shouldn't use this word or whatever. I love it because they took the time enough to care to come say those things. So I absolutely love when people come up to me after shows. So there's so many things. I don't know if there's one thing that I love the most, but yeah, we could be on here for another hour because I'm just in love with performing and comedy in general.
Absolutely. Hey, and I was gonna say, what's it like when people want to get a selfie with you? And have you signed any autographs yet for people, for your fans?
Leah was there the first time it happened, and I literally like kind of laughed and looked behind me. I was like, "Oh, you want a picture with me?" Like it's just why? It's oh my gosh, it's so amazing, and not because of the fame. It's not because oh look at me, I'm so important, but I impacted this person so much that they want to take a picture of me, that they want this memory. I help them create a positive memory in their life. The first time, Jim Florentine from Crank Yankers, um, very, very funny comedian. I had the honor of opening for him at a venue at a huge beach place in Delaware. And a few months later, I did a show up in Wilmington with Delaware, which is about 2 hours away. And this woman comes up to me after the show. She saw me perform with that one guy, which I was like, what? He's famous. And she saw me on a flyer, so she had to come out and see me. And I'm like, you specifically came here to see me perform? Like, it was just mind blowing. So after those kinds of things happened, it was just like, wow, these people, I connected with them and they wanted to come back to enjoy that experience. It is unlike anything. And that's where it relates a little bit to teaching, helping kids, making them feel good. That was wonderful, but I was very limited to what I can do. This with comedy, you can bring joy and laughter and just excitement, new experiences, positive experiences to people's lives. And it's unlike any other. Yeah,
It
it's
is.
crazy.
It's a great feeling because a couple months ago, I was covering a professional football team in Toronto, and I left where the players were to head back to the train to leave. And this woman approached me, and she goes, "You're Chris?" I'm like, "Yes." And she goes, "My son wants to meet you." And I'm like, "Okay." And I guess he came up to me, he goes, I love your Toronto Argonauts podcast show. I love your media work. And he wanted a selfie with me. And I couldn't believe it that like I'm just doing this because this is a passion of mine. But when a mother of a 14-year-old comes up to me and says, my son's a big fan of yours, it was overwhelming because I was like, never had somebody want to get a selfie with me before and shake my hand and meet me and say thank you for the work I'm doing covering the team.
And Chris, I have to say, it's even more special because 14-year-olds don't like anything these days. It's not cool to like things. So to want to, take a picture with you, like that is the hugest compliment. That is so awesome. That's
But
really cool.
but I've also realized too, got to stay humble and hungry.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. There's a fine line for sure. Because whereas, there's some of us that are just like, what do you mean? And then others that are just really not humble at all. So yeah, there's a fine line between imposter syndrome and just all out narcissism, I guess.
before we wrap up the show, can you tell us about your upcoming event from Bar None Entertainment? I guess it's on Saturday, October 26th at 7 o'clock.
Yes, yes, that one is going to be at the Grand Opera House in Wilmington, Delaware, and the proceeds are going to the Delaware Mental Health Foundation. So it's really important. Yeah, I do shows all the time. Friday night actually is I'm doing another show in Philadelphia, and the proceeds are going to a playhouse where they do a lot of things for Latino children. So this weekend there's the Wilmington Opera House on the 26th. You can click on the flyer. I just learned this. If you hold down the QR code, it will pop up with a link. I was like, how do you get a QR code when it's on your cell phone? That's how, for anybody that didn't know like me. But yeah, you can get your tickets there, or you can get them online. But yeah, those are wonderful causes that I'm doing in the next 2 weeks. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, go on out to the Latinos Unidos show. You can find those on my pages. Or if you're in the Delaware area and want to travel from anywhere to come to Wilmington, Delaware, it's at the Grand Opera House on the 26th. So lots of wonderful talent all around. Yeah, I can't say enough about the charitable organizations, but the people are just wonderful too. So there's a laugh for everybody in those shows.
If I was not 9 hours away or 8.5 hours, I would definitely come. But I'm hoping one day to see you perform live. And I want to actually doing this show. I want to travel more and get to meet some of the people that I've had on my show. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on tonight. Do you have a website yet you'd like to plug?
I do not have a website yet, but I
Okay.
am working on it. That's one of the things that Leah and I are working on getting together. But yeah, with all the social media and everything, I figure for right now we'll work on those. But yeah, anything Chica Loca comedy. That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's a very heavily filtered picture of me on there. You always know it's filtered when people are like, oh, they look you up on social media. They go, oh, is that one you? Yeah, it used to be. So yeah, Chica Loca comedy, it's on there for now, and then eventually I'll get a website.
And before we wrap this up, I do this with my guests. What are two things about Canada that you know about, or one thing about Canada?
Well, I now know that there are Puerto Ricans in Canada, so that's good. And that today is Thanksgiving, which I really want to ask you a lot of questions about that, just given what our Thanksgiving is and as opposed to what yours means. But that's probably an off the air show conversation. But that you've got great baseball teams in Toronto. Blue Jays, is
The
that
Blue Jays, they were last
okay?
place this year. They were awful. We had another team in Montreal, but they moved to Washington.
They left. They just packed up.
They left and went to Washington. Yeah.
One of my favorite shows, Supernatural, was filmed in Canada. And yeah, I was in Canada twice for cheerleading. So
What
yeah,
province? We call them provinces here. In the States, it's states, but here they're provinces.
right near Montreal.
Quebec.
Yeah,
Bonjour. Merci
Yes, there was
beaucoup.
a lot of I don't even want to butcher it, but the stop signs say array, array.
Yes.
That's awful. But yeah, went to McDonald's and they have vinegar for the fries and it was the coolest
Yes.
thing ever.
Poutine.
Yeah.
Poutine is huge here in Canada. That's like French fries, gravies, cheese curds. It's basically heart attack food.
I just gained 5 pounds you saying that. So
And smoked Montreal meat. That's huge in Montreal too.
hey, is THC legal in Canada, or is it like the province thing, like ours is state to state? Is that
In Canada now it's fully
in
legalized. They
the
a
country?
couple years ago, yeah, they have to have business licenses and stuff, but it's fully legal in Canada for the last I think 2 or 3 years and stuff like that. Yes.
Awesome. And I'll probably be asking you about how to relocate into that area later then. So that works.
Dale, and I think we got one more comment from Leah. And oh, she wants to chirp Drake. By the way, I have a Drake story. When I did my old job in security, Drake would come to the casino where I work at 3 in the morning with about 100 people in his entourage in one of those stretch limos, and he would go in and gamble a lot of money. But Drake does a lot of charity work for people that he doesn't ask for publicity. I'm not really a big fan of his, but he's become a mega star and he started out small. He was like a TV actor in the early 2000s and he never gave up on his music career. And now look at him. He's our version of Taylor Swift here in Canada.
That is awesome. Taylor Swift's not Canadian?
No, she's not.
Oh, I'm just kidding. We'll take her. We'll claim her.
Are you are you a Swifty or not? Are you a Swifty or not?
Um, that's a complicated question. I do love some of her songs and I appreciate her for everything she's done. And Travis Kelce is a very attractive man, so good for her and good for him. But you know, I'm not gonna get her music. You know, I'm not gonna pay for the music, let's just say, but I will jam to it. So, you know, if that makes sense. I don't know. That wasn't a real answer. I like her, but I wouldn't say I am a diehard Swiftie, so just speak.
That's okay. That's okay. I for me, I'm a 70s and 80s classic rock music.
I
Even
like
disco, even disco music.
80s and 90s for me really are the era, just pop, hip hop, rock, just yeah, that's my jam. Dance music, you know, that whole thing. But yeah, Taylor Swift, a lot of her more popular radio versions that I would hear. Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm
Can you
not.
sing? Can you sing?
Oh no, not at all.
No?
That's comedy. Yeah, I shouldn't even be allowed to sing happy birthday. It's pretty bad. But I did do karaoke at one of my shows in North
Same
Carolina.
here. Same
So
here in New York City at Stout, New York City. And the owner told me after, he goes, I don't want you here again. You emptied out my bar. I had a
what
couple
did
of drinks in me. I had a couple of drinks in me, and I sang Detroit Rock City, Don't Stop Believing, and This Is How We Do It. And it was a lot of fun, but I think I emptied out the bar. I was
you
so bad.
Montel Jordan? This is
Yes.
how we do it.
Yeah. I did it. I
Yes.
did it. I did it.
I love it. I
That's
love it. I did
that's a fun
salt and
fact.
pepper.
Salt and pepper. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the only time I've done karaoke in my life. So if I go back to New York again, I'll do it because I don't live there. So, but
Well, I hope you will let me know when you're in New York because Leah and I, we love going up there. So we'll take a trip and we'll empty out the bars with our songs together.
definitely. And Leah just said, I love Drake even more than I already have. Well, I hope I'm number two after Drake after tonight. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Hey, and we're going to wrap this up. I do this with all my guests too. I'm going to put this, I'm going to reward it. What is a fun fact about Chica Loca that your fans might know about you? And again, what's the best place for somebody to follow you on social media again?
Ooh, fun fact. Oh, I was on Nickelodeon in the 90s for an episode of The Adventures of Pete and Pete. So
Wow.
yeah, I was
Congrats.
just I was an extra basically, but they did a close up of me and I was on there for a good few seconds. But no, Dan Snyder did not do anything inappropriate with me. But yeah, that's, I guess, yeah. And yeah, they can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all Chica Loca comedy. So, yeah.
Dog or a cat person?
Oh, I can't ever decide on anything. I don't know if you picked up on that, but I'm always well, yes and no. I can't make up my mind about anything. I have a Chihuahua, little tiny Chihuahua. And
Awesome.
yeah, on brand for me. I'm allergic to cats, but if I was not allergic to cats, I'd have cats, if that makes sense. I love them.
I have
Yeah.
a cat myself. Her name is Latte. She's a Siamese cat, and she's spoiled rotten.
Oh, I
I'll have
bet.
to send you. I'll have to send you a picture of her. Grumpy cat. If you know what a grumpy cat looks like, that's what
Yeah.
she looks like.
Yeah. I used to read the stories of Grumpy Cat. Yeah, to my
Okay.
little children's.
And since you're from the Philly area, put you on the spot. Last question, I promise.
No,
Best,
as many as you want.
best cheesesteak in Philadelphia.
So a lot of people like the Pats and Geno's. I think they're wonderful. Geno's is good, but I really like the Tony Luke's a lot.
I had his when I was there 10 years ago. So I haven't been in Philadelphia in 10 years, so I need to get back there.
Yes, and again, let us know for sure because we will definitely meet you out there, and we'll go get the whiz wits, and then we'll take a taste of all three, and we'll see which Pat's, Geno's, or Tony Luke's.
I just have to make sure I get my exercise in before.
Yeah.
You guys got too much choice in the States.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very at the with DoorDash, especially, it's just like, oh, wait, I feel like a cheesesteak, and it's at your door in 15 minutes. It costs you $74, but it's there.
But the
So
only thing I would say is the DoorDash. We had an incident here in Toronto where somebody had a camera on their front porch, and they caught the Dash driver spitting in their food and drink. So I tell people just to be careful if you use it. I personally, if I want to take out, I just go and pick it up myself. But I'm just hoping that Dash Dine here, they take care of this guy and fire him and make sure he never works in that job again because people are trusting you. And the person that had this happen to them in Toronto, he gave the guy an 18% tip ahead of time. So we don't know, they don't know why he did this, but that's the only negative about that, having somebody bring your food to your house is I think these places have to do a better job of screening everyone that works for them because people are trusting you with their food.
mhm. What is
So
standard tip in I know different countries have different tipping standards. What is standard
it
tip in your area?
in the province of Ontario, which I'm not far from Toronto, it's generally 15 to 18%.
Okay. In the
It's general.
States, it's 20.
Is
Yeah.
it okay?
Yeah.
So
Anything
15 to
below
18%.
20 is just, oh, it was poor service or yeah, so it's 20 and higher. Me personally, especially at a comedy venue, I give I usually 15 to $20 as a tip, no, even if I don't drink or eat anything. Just as a professional respect to the servers that are serving our show. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just like when I go out to, I like to make sure I give a good service, good food. They get a tip, and sometimes you can't blame the servers because the cooks screwed up or something happened in the kitchen too. So their jobs aren't easy as well. So I always try to be more than average with tipping as well. We could do a whole show on tipping.
Yes, because I lived in Germany when I was 15. My dad was in the military, and they don't do, at least back then they didn't tip. That wasn't a custom there. So yeah, you got whatever service you got, like it or not. They weren't working for those tips.
And Leah just says Philly party night out. So I'll have
Uh,
to get there. I haven't even been on an airplane yet, but you know what? I might just drive down. It's only like 8 hour drive from here to Philadelphia.
Are you not a fan of planes?
I've never been on one yet.
But is it as are do you choose not to go because you don't like them, or it
It's
just
just
hasn't
it's
happened?
because you're in a confined space and somebody's driving you. I know they're technically safer than cars, but you don't have any control when you're up in an airplane. At least when you're driving a car, you do to some degree have a little bit more control. But eventually, I will have to try an airplane one day because I know from Toronto, Philadelphia, it's like a 2.5 hour flight. To drive there, it's about 9 hours.
That's only, oh, wow. I don't know why I
So
thought it was further. How far are you from the Boston area?
I know from Buffalo, New York, for me to Buffalo, New York is about under 2 hours. I would say for me to from here to Boston would probably be about 8 hour drive,
Okay.
depending on the border traffic. Because the border traffic going across to Canada to the US border sometimes can be a pain in the butt too. So it just depends on the border traffic and the weather too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I went on a cheer trip, like I told you, and we went in a van. And one of the guys that was with us, and this was before 9/11, obviously, but he forgot his ID or passport somewhere, and he almost got stuck there. So, so
Just make
yeah,
sure you have your passport when you come over here.
yeah, for sure.
Definitely. But hey, Chika, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. Even though we've only met, I think, what, a week ago on social
Yeah.
media, it's just connecting with people. And I really enjoyed tonight. And I learned more stuff about the comedy industry that I didn't know about before. And I really I appreciate your time and coming on here. And if you can give me a little bit of time tonight, I will send you the video, the audio, and some. I'll shrink some video into reels and clips, and I'll tag you in them on social media and send you out on email. And our show should air probably tomorrow night on
Okay.
WQEE 99.1 FM. My show's on there Monday to Friday from 8 to 9. And my station manager, Ryan O'Neill, doesn't mind if my shows go over an hour. So he's a pretty cool station manager. And he loves my content because it's not just in the States, it's Canada, the UK, Switzerland. I've made this into an international show, and I have listeners in 38 countries, and I'm very appreciative and can't believe people really like my work, but this is something I love doing.
Well, I can see why they love your work a lot. You're great at what you do, and I really appreciate you having me on. And I got to say, I love your story so much, and it's very relatable to me, especially because of starting later. So anything I can do to support, I'll be here to do that. So I'm really grateful to you. So thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And take your time. I know editing is a lot, and yeah, I'll post and share and repost. So thank you so much.
I'll take a tip. That'll be 30%. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
What's
I'm just kidding.
30% of zero?
I try to be funny occasionally. I try to be. So, hey,
Well,
I'm Canadian, so I get a little funny in me.
I love it. And I love your accent. I know to you it's not an accent, but yeah, it's awesome. Every time you say a boat, it tickles me. So
So, but
yeah.
you have an open invite, Chika, to come back on my show anytime. And if Leah ever wants to come on, you guys both have a welcome. If you guys both want to come on, you're welcome to it as well. And maybe one day you can write a book about your story.
Yeah, and you know what? Leah is one that will definitely, her book is going to be a bestseller. So we were just talking about that too. So thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you. See, she's just she's amazing. But
Thank
you're
you, Leah.
she was absolutely right. And thank you very much. And yeah, we'll be in touch for sure. Thank you to all your viewers and listeners. I mean,
Well, thank
this is
you.
awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm still a work in progress, but I just love doing this show and meeting people and connecting with them. And I can't wait to keep continue doing this. And I want to say continued success in your career. And I would like to try to see some more of your shows as well. And one of these days we'll get out there and see one of your live performances as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you and happy Thanksgiving to you. I'm
Y-
thankful for you.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon on social media. Have a great night and go Guardians and go Mets.
Yes, and Yankees.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
Chris.
right. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed season 9, episode 2, overall 442 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by BarryCullen.com here in Guelph. Want to say thank you so much to my guest, Chica Loca, stand-up comedian out of the Delaware, Pennsylvania area for coming on here tonight. And I want to say thank you to Leah for watching as well. I really appreciate you, Leah, coming on here. And happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. And yours is coming up in what, 4 or 5 weeks at the end of November? I guess after Black Friday, which I do not travel the States on Black Friday. I don't like crowded shopping malls. And Leah is an Eagles fan. Yes, go Birds, fly Eagles, fly. And I'm hoping to get a media pass one day to come to Lincoln Financial Field. I've seen the Eagles play live 4 times, but on the road. I've seen them play in Buffalo 3 times, and I've seen the Eagles play at Lambeau Field in Green Bay 5 years ago. I had a little too much champagne, but the Eagles won, and it was a great time. And Eagles, they beat Cleveland yesterday 20-16, but it was an ugly win. And I'm hoping the team this week can beat the Giants and start playing better, because the Eagles just went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and the expectations in Philadelphia are Super Bowl and that. And it's not an easy sports town if you don't win. So hopefully they can turn it around. But I want to say thank you so much again to Chica Loca for coming on here tonight, and Leah for watching. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live streamed and on my audio platforms and on WQEE 99.1 FM. We're going to wrap up this show soon, guys, but I have another announcement. My next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by BarryCullen.com, on Wednesday, October 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest, Dr. Ms. Jones. She's a comedian, MC, actress, radio host, and personality, a radio personality of me and Ms. Jones on iHeartRadio 108 Soul. So Wednesday night, October 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern, with Dr. Ms. Jones, and I'm excited to have her on my show. Guys, if you're looking to adopt, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society, 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, or visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the animals up for adoption are on the website, and they're doing a 50-50 monthly raffle draw there as well. And if you're looking to volunteer at the Cambridge and District Humane Society, again, you can do it through their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is hosted by Chris Palme, is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. And once I'm done this live show, please check me out on the website, WQEEFM.radio12345.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. You can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show again is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out BarryCullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@BarryCullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph, 2024 Trailblazer, you can lease for $178 bi-weekly. That's like $89 weekly at 5.9% interest for 24 months, with a $2,750 down payment on an ultra low kilometer lease. More details at BarryCullen.com, or pop by the dealership again in the Guelph Auto Mall. You can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're in the webinars or podcasting or live streaming, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans or paid professional plans, and they do have plans for businesses as well. More details at StreamYard.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. The audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube, and now on Good Pods. So make sure on YouTube Music and Good Pods you hit that subscribe and like notification. Finally, you guys can email live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com. Any comments, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And before we wrap up our show tonight, guys, we have National League Baseball going on. At last, it was Mets 6, Dodgers 3 going to the bottom of the seventh. That game is probably long over. And then tonight we have Cleveland and the Yankees in game 1 of the American League Divisional Series. That game should probably be in the 5th or 6th inning right now. And Monday Night Football, we have the AFC rivals, the Buffalo Bills, taking on the New York Jets as well. I want to say thank you again to my guest tonight, Chica Loca, a stand-up comedian out of the Delaware, Pennsylvania area, for coming on here tonight. And again, I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live stream and my audio platforms and on WQEE 99.1 FM, sponsored by Barry Collins Chevrolet here in Guelph. So I'm looking forward to my next show Wednesday night at 8 o'clock with Dr. Ms. Jones, a comedian, MC, radio personality, and an actress as well. So I'm really looking forward to having her on. And then Thursday at 2 p.m., I have the assistant general manager, Brad Bisbing of the Buffalo Bisons, on to talk a little bit about the Buffalo Bisons 2024 seasons as well. I hope everybody has a great rest of the evening. Again, wishing everyone here in Canada a happy Thanksgiving Day, and we'll see you back here Wednesday night for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.